Hi, I'm Pierce Jens with Baratza Support. Today I'm going to walk you through removing and replacing the gearbox and motor assembly on your Sette series grinder. The only tool you will need to change the gearbox motor assembly on your Sette is a T10 screwdriver. That's a torque size 10 screwdriver. Before starting, empty the hopper of all coffee and run the machine to ensure there's no coffee between the burrs. Unplug the grinder, remove the hopper from the top, remove the grounds catcher. If the hook is in the way, push it down and swivel it to the side so we can rotate the adjustment assembly clockwise until it drops out of the machine. I'm going to go ahead and set all these parts to the side. Make sure you have a clean work surface and lay down a towel if needed to ensure that the machine does not get damaged, as we're going to set it face down on the work surface. Remove the 4 screws from the back. Remove the center foot on the bottom. You may be able to pull the foot out with your fingers, or you may need to use pliers to grab onto the foot and pull it out. Then remove the T10 screw from underneath the rear foot. Now we can go ahead and set the unit back upright, and the whole rear cover will slide off the machine. Be careful, there are 2 wires still secured. We're going to go ahead and unplug these from the switch and let them dangle to the side so we can get the rear cover fully removed. At this point we can see the gearbox and motor assembly in the machine, and we can see the 4 screws that we have to remove in order to get the assembly out. Before removing the 4 screws, let's go ahead and unplug the 2 wires from the back of the motor. There's a red wire and a black wire in the back of the motor. Each plugs into a spade clip, and the spade clip is coming out of a white piece of plastic. One white piece of plastic has a bump on it, and the other white piece of plastic does not. It's important to ensure that the red wire is plugged into the spade clip that does have the bump on the bottom. At this point, we're ready to take out the 4 screws holding the assembly in. Okay. Now we can pull the gearbox and motor assembly up and out of the machine. So let's go ahead and grab our new gearbox motor and assembly so we can install it. Before setting the gearbox and motor assembly into the machine, make sure that all the wires are off to the side and out of the way. They should not go underneath the assembly. They should run alongside it. Go ahead and set the assembly in position. Double check that the black wire bundle is free, as well as the 2 wires that go to the rear cover. Plug the 2 wires into the bottom of the motor. Remember, the black wire plugs into the spade terminal coming from the smooth housing. The red wire plugs into the spade terminal that has a bump added to it. Now we can go ahead and reinsert the 4 screws securing the assembly. These screws do not need to be very tight, just tighten until snug. We need to plug the 2 wires back into position on the rear cover. You can see that the wires naturally want to point with the black one on this position and the brown one here. So I know that this is how they were before, and I want to put them back the same way to make sure everything fits together properly. So we'll go ahead and push those 2 back into place. Make sure these 2 wires do not get pinched while you're sliding the case on. To slide the case on, first get it settled so that the top is down into position and the back is lined up, and then wiggle while you push on the rear cover towards the front of the machine. There are 3 tabs that slide into place when you push the cover forward. As you can see, and the screws in the back of the case will hold this in a little bit further. We'll hold it in tight when you have it all the way together. If it's not even getting close to being together, check that your wires are not in the way. So at this point, I'm ready to go ahead and put the rear cover screws back into position. Once again, these screws do not need to be tightened very much, they just need to be put in until snug. Don't forget the screw underneath. Reinsert the rear foot. It can help to moisten the rear foot before pushing it back in. So I got just a little bit of water on the foot, and I'm going to push it in, make sure it's all the way in, and then go ahead and set the grinder. It should be nice and sit level. Now we can double check that the case is on all the way. You can see that it's pushed up flush in the front. And at this point, we're ready to reinsert our adjustment assembly. Put the hopper back on top. Insert the grounds catcher and you are ready to return to operation.